Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in once again to the Black Box Podcast. All right, so we're still carrying on with some sort of previews for the 2020 presidential election. And it's official now that Andrew Yang, a venture capitalist and CEO of a certain venture capital company, has announced that he is running for president on the Democratic ticket. And, he is a Chinese American, and he is one of the few Asian Americans to throw his hat in for the presidency in the entire, well, history of the Democratic Party or probably any political party in the United States. What makes Andrew Yang's presidential campaign different than some of the other contenders? Well, he's all about UBI. That's the Universal Basic Income. And that would be giving everyone between the ages of 18 and 64, that's all American citizens, 18 to 64, $1,000 a month. Universal basic income. And this would pretty much be sort of an incentive that he says, in his own words, for people to be starting businesses. He wants, people to be just sort of taking on the entrepreneurial spirit. And if you give people this money within that demographic, ages 18 to 64, that they are just going to create. This is very similar to something that is called the fair tax, which has been pushed forth by the Libertarian Party and certain people in the Republican Party, particularly Congressman John Linder, the person who authored the fair tax book with Neal Boortz. Now, this is a little different because the fair tax is a 23% sales tax, and that gives you sort of what's called a prebate. After the 23% sales tax, the income tax is brought to zero, and every family would receive the cost of necessities as a prebate based on the number of people in your household. If you have 4 people in the house, you get a certain amount of money. If you have 5 people, you get a little more, 6 people, a little more, and so on. Well, Andrew Yang's plan is different. He is only doing ages 18 to 64. That person gets $1,000. And the difference, again, is he doesn't want 23% for a sales tax. He wants 10%. 10% national sales tax. What we learned from the 2011 campaigns with Herman Cain and his 999 plan is this would not eliminate a state sales tax. So if your state is paying 7 cents on the dollar already, you would be adding 10 cents on the dollar as well. So you buy a loaf of bread that's $1, that's now going to be $1.17. First thing, which I have not heard Andrew Yang say yet, is this needs to be inclusive. The fair tax is an inclusive thing, meaning like if you see $1 on the price tag, 10 cents out of that dollar would go to the government, 90 cents would go to the business. It has to be inclusive. People should not be, seeing the results of this at the register. It needs to be an inclusive sales tax. Is this something that is feasible? I'm flat out going to tell you, I don't know, because this has never been tried before. Giving people $1,000 a month as a universal basic income. What I would say is, and I just did a video upload recently talking about the Libertarians' primary election for 2020, and the fair tax, the consumption tax, the universal basic income, these things are things that have had enormous amounts of popularity. They are getting press from all different sides of the aisle. Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, and Independents are all talking about, putting a tax on consumption and using that as a way to eliminate poverty. I repeat, eliminate poverty. Because they're sort of saying that if people are given, more money and they are given like a cut on income tax and they're taxed on their transactions, then you can prebate them, and that is just going to take away, the sort of impoverished setting that we have in America. Now, again, is this going to work? I'm not sure, because the Humanity Party, which is a new third party in America, is really saying something to the contrary. They're saying, do not give people cash. If you give people cash, they're just going to spend it on drugs. And I've yet to hear Andrew Yang talk about that as well. I mean, like, if you give people $1,000 a month, are they just going to go out and, buy drugs or do something else illegal with it or do something completely unproductive with it? I mean, you can't really guarantee that this is going to, generate success in the economy. On the other hand, there are just countless Americans that would use $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year for the betterment of their own lives and in turn the betterment of the community and all of the country as well. And we don't really know what these things are going to be like until we try them, but one, keep in mind, you're paying 10 cents on the dollar in addition to your national sales tax. I mean, that could be something that needs to be taken into account. And furthermore, you're giving people cash. The Humanity Party talked about using a voucher system where it's similar to the EBT card. You would have a card that you can use to spend on the things like food, clothing, and materials for shelter. And that's all that you can use your voucher card for. You can't even buy something like alcohol with it. No, I mean, but Andrew Yang isn't proposing that. Some other things that he's talking about is on his website, he is saying very clearly that he is a promoter of Puerto Rican statehood. And, he says that the people of Puerto Rico have been wanting statehood for the longest time. And just from based on my own limited exposure to that issue, I really think it's a little more multifaceted. I mean, because, there was even a Puerto Rican independence movement. There are people that just wanted to remain as a commonwealth. And that is something that again, I would think maybe you would probably want to have some sort of referendum going on, actually hear what the citizens of Puerto Rico would want to do in that particular area. Furthermore, when it comes to territories, why not address American Samoa? American Samoans are not American citizens, they are American nationals. Why not, give them sort of a boost, make American Samoans full American citizens? And I would like to see Andrew Yang address that. It's like, he is a guy who's coming from a different background. He is someone who is going to be bringing a lot of new ideas, and he already has the ball rolling. He has his website going. Yang 2020 is going to be discussed a lot more. And, there are really going to be a lot of things that are going to be beneficial from his campaign, new ideas. The Democratic Party has become really stale, and democratic socialism a la Bernie Sanders was not the answer. I mean, Bernie was able to energize the youth, but we do not need to go to such extremes that would never work. Like some of the plans that Bernie was talking about would cost $32 trillion, which even if you tax the fuck out of, the American people, that wouldn't exactly happen. But once again, the fair tax, the consumption tax, has been authored in a way where it's like you're going to be potentially generating more revenue than the income tax, and people will get it back. You pay into the system and you get it back. This prebate, or you can call it the UBI, Universal Basic Income. I mean, I think it's very creative, and I think it's something that we can explore more. And this based on the fact that this has received so much support from people from various parts of the aisle. I think that it is going to be something that, maybe we can work the kinks out of the system for this universal basic income and consumption tax. If it really were to work in their ideal sense, you would be finding a way to drastically reduce poverty throughout America. I mean, we're talking about on Native American reservations. We're talking about in the extreme rural areas. We are talking about, in the far-off corners of Alaska and Hawaii and, just all through the American heartland. And if that could work, why not? I mean, solutions are what's needed. Just to get out of the whole same old, same old. And does Andrew Yang have a realistic chance of winning the presidency? Probably not. But what I think he really has the opportunity to do is to raise attention to the consumption tax. And that's what it seems to be the heart of his campaign and issue. And furthermore, we always need more politicians that are going to be talking about ending these wars, putting people into these unnecessary wars and unnecessary military conflict. Once again, to recap, Andrew Yang's plan for a consumption tax is 10% on all sales in America. And in return, people ages 18 to 64, all adults ages 18 to 64, will receive $1,000, cash directly to your bank account. If I've interpreted his data correctly. What do you think about that? Is that a good idea or a bad idea? I'm listening. Please leave any comments you want in the comments section below. Signing off.